Hello and welcome to an emergency pod for Call Now. Typically, we do plunge headfirst into the surreal world of infomercial and do so with a touch of levity. Tonight, unfortunately, we are here to, talk about something a little more on the somber side. I'm Dan Sturdivant. I'm joined by my co-hosts, as always, Mark Pedrati and Dave Sandrini. And we are here because earlier this afternoon, we are on Wednesday, July 28, 2021. The legend himself, Ron Popeil, passed away today. The release that his group sent out said it was suddenly and peacefully at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles at the age of 86. Man, I don't know. Even when someone's in their 80s, when there's someone like Ron, who's, I guess for us, been more pervasive in our lives than perhaps for others, I still kind of jumped back when I saw it and had that holy shit moment of saying, oh, wow, Ron actually passed away. He'd been working at least up until recently. Like we talked about the 5-in-1 fryer not too long ago. And that's something that they shot, at least in the last 5-6 years, it seemed like 5-10 years, somewhere in that range. So yeah, but legend is gone. It's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, we see him every week on this. We hear him every week on this. I think I manipulated myself to think that he's just been here the whole time doing his thing. And so maybe he did slow down over the past couple of years. I can't really call that at this moment, but yeah, I mean, he's totally going to be missed by us and the infomercial world. And when you explain infomercials to people, he's literally the first person that you can kind of point to
yes,
to help you talk about a pasta maker, rotisserie,
right? Or like trying to explain our show to people. Like
yes.
It's like, oh, what do you mean? It's like, well, like Ron Popeil, right? It's like, yeah, it's like, well, isn't it kind of weird that like all this stuff that he's done and like all these different products and that he's just kind of like this famous, non-famous person that everyone's familiar, not familiar with? Like, yeah, that's where we're spending a lot of our time these days. Yeah.
Put his damn name on his company, like Ronco. That's a legendary company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we talked about the pasta maker. We talked about the turkey fryer. We had what now feels like an even more important infomercial when it's him and Arnold together. The only one they ever did together, and they're selling the Showtime 6 Series Plus whatever awfully named knives. That was a fun run, right? To see them side by side. See Ron's 2 daughters on there. We joked about the faux family reunion. But everything that we'd heard, even from we talked to Stan Jacobs, we talked to Jan Muller, both of them were pretty much on the same page, especially Jan being effusive in his praise, since he ended up kind of being the face of a lot of Ron's products, being the guy who was pushing the Showtime rotisserie on QVC, that giving him really a close relationship with him, where obviously Stan had worked with the Morris brothers and produced a lot of their infomercials and was well aware of Ron and, I don't think they ever worked together, he said, but, he had nothing ill to say about the guy. But yeah, I know we picked on Ron in our shows because his style is purely one of a kind, but I think that uniqueness is rooted in how much of a unicorn in this space even that he was, because he invented everything that he sold. He's the only guy who's that path, who is 100%, this is me, this is what I know, this is what I do, and I can sell it better than you can too. And even if, like Jan said, he might not have been the best, pitch man in history, the fact that he knew every crevice of everything he was selling definitely had an impact on his ability to sling it better than anybody else.
Yeah, and the big thing for me is his transition into TV, which we learned all that from Stan's documentary, or kind of put the pieces together through Stan's documentary, which is, he was the king of a pitch in sales, but also made that jump from being a huckster, to being a household name and being on TV and being, he's very innovative for that. And the reason why people like everyone that we've covered is on TV. And also the reason why some of the great personalities of Stan's documentary couldn't make that transition, because it's a massive one to go from strictly sales, colorful, fun, crazy, keep people's attention for 20 minutes, person to person, to making a 30-minute show, which it's no easy thing,
Yeah. It's a whole
think about
sport. Yeah.
Think about when the ABA merged with the NBA, how basketball completely changed in the 80s. And before that, like, think about those players that played pre-ABA to post-ABA joining in the 80s, and the ones that could hang with the new type of basketball. Those are the legends. And we're looking, it's the Birds, it's the Magic, Birds, the Magic. Those were the new waves. But like, think of Ron Popeil as the guy that made that transition between pitching there in front of people to being the most successful. Dr. J. He's Dr. J.
He's the merger.
Yeah. And I'm not an expert because we don't know the timeline, but I would bet he's 5 years ahead of whoever the next person is who comes in to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
I think he's even farther ahead of it. Like, because the Morrises were there along with it. As as we discussed, the Vitamix was technically the first infomercial. But Ron's Chop-O-Matic first infomercial was 1959 that he laid down a half hour, right? Like, that's bananas. And in the early 50s, he's credited as being the first person to do the first minute-long infomercial, basically. And it cost him $500 for that, to get that produced and distributed. But like, he's such an innovator, and it's really that. And again, going back to his book too, Salesman of the Century, he was an inventor, and more than a pitch man, he was a marketer. Like, that's what he was thinking about, was what can I do to differentiate in the marketplace. So he's like, I can pitch because I'm comfortable with it and I know the product inside and out and I can demonstrate it. That's fine. But how can I do this a different way, a better way? Like, the inventor mindset of kind of how to move the product, or like the inventor's mindset didn't stop at the product itself. It continued into, how do I get this into people's hands, into their houses? So yeah, it's nuts that I know probably a year ago it would have been like a oh man thing, and now it's like, oh man, I feel like I lost like a distant family member. I'm like, oh wow, like I'm taking a step or two back.
We have awards named after him. We have, man, he's in our intros. We bring him up like we use him as a litmus test on basically all of our points.
Yeah.
Did you know he got parodied on I Love Lucy? Did you know that one, Dan?
I knew the SNL one. Yeah, I knew the Bassomatic, but yeah.
That's kind of crazy. And Old School. When does that happen in Old School? Did you read that?
Ooh, I consider myself an Old School aficionado.
It says appeared on everything from The Simpsons to Old School. Is he in Old School?
That's something. Yeah, I think, Dave, you've stumbled into a corner of things that we need to investigate further, and we are going to, do things correctly. We are going to take the time.
Excuse me.
No.
No. Hey, just ask Tom. Tom will tell you what he's in.
I know, right?
Tom tells you everything everybody's in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Purvis should just have IMDb reroute to his direct phone line. He is movie phone. But no, Dave, what I'm saying is everything you're saying and more, we are going to cover in depth. So, the next episode that'll come out from us is our deep dive on the John Abdo Bun and Thigh Doer. And then the following week, we'll have, I think, the proper recognition for the career of Ron Popeil. Kind of dig into all this stuff and find all these little pieces, like some of the things you're running into now, Dave. Because I think, it's a pervasive personality of sorts where it's everywhere. And then again, I was talking to my mother-in-law a little earlier tonight. I said, Ron Popeil. She's like, not ringing bells. I was like, set it and forget it. And she's like, I was like, GLH, the hair in the cage. Like, oh yeah, I bought that for Jeff. I was like, yeah, like,
oh my god.
It's like, within how many questions can I get you to recognize an infomercial personality? I think that's Ron definitely has the shortest list of questions to get there from most people.
It's the 2 degrees of Ron Popeil.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I can ask you 2 questions and you will have bought one of these products or have used it yourself. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's, like I said, we'll get into things a lot more. I can't believe we never heard the term the Rontourage before. Wow. That's in the release that his group sent out today. So yeah, that's stunning. I'm sure we'll uncover a lot more stuff. I'm sure a lot's going to be written in the next week or so as well, which will definitely help us out. But yeah, Ron will be missed, but he'll definitely, as long as the internet stays up, he'll definitely live forever. Both between the plethora of infomercials and commercials that are out there, and all of his products that are still being sold all over the place.
And us, because.
And most importantly, Call Now podcast.
The Ronnies, baby.
Because like Jordan Belfort, we're not going anywhere.
It's what Ron wanted. Yeah.
Dan, what forget about Mark and I. What's your favorite Ron product? Because you're the expert.
My favorite Ron product, I think so. One of my favorite ones was always the food dehydrator, because that seems like such an unimportant, unusable, unnecessary product. And it's also one that my grandfather owned. So like my grandfather, who I've also diagnosed part of my infomercial affliction, tracing it back to my maternal grandfather and him owning and using a Flowbee, his garage being full of as seen on TV products, and then also him going through a big food dehydrating phase. Where he's like, we're going to Grandpa's house. I hope he's got those banana chips. And he did. He always did, because
venison jerky.
I think he was too lazy. I think this Grandpa was definitely more on the. He was more of the hands off.
Tuna jerky.
He was. Yeah. He was definitely more pitchman than inventor. This Grandpa. But he kept the surface level. But yeah,
Dave,
that interaction always had that close to me.
Dave, what's yours out of our limited knowledge?
Oh boy,
because Dan went nostalgic, and I have a nostalgic one, and I talked about it before.
I like Dan's, but I don't know anything about it because I'm less familiar.
You will.
So I would probably say, I guess I'll say the pasta maker, because it was my first run-in with Ron.
Yeah.
Which is a good product, which is fine. What a great
inroad.
But just I was completely baffled and mystified by what he was infusing his pasta with. And it was a moment, this is personal, but it was a moment that I was like, I was not in Kansas anymore. That was my Hazel moment in the Call Now universe, is Ron putting things into pasta. And I was like, whoa, I may have made a mistake here.
You're like, I know the magic bullet was silly. You're like, I brought up the Bowflex because I get that. And then you're like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Right.
Dave, it's got to be mine too, just because I know I talked about it on the pasta maker episode, but I remember my dad just being like, oh yeah, we had that thing. I don't know why we stopped using it. He's like, the pasta was great and we used it once. And that was it. He's like, I really don't know why we stopped using it.
Well, didn't your dad also send Ron a letter about the molding deficiencies of it and making it an offer to help repair it?
He did, yeah. He found some shit parts to it and how he could make it better.
Always negotiate.
Yeah.
Always.
So,
yeah. Captain Feeney.
Yeah.
Captain Feeney, the original Captain Feeney.
Yeah.
Does anybody know
that? Oh, Jesus. Yeah. But listen, so we'll talk a lot more about Ron coming up, but in all sincerity, the thoughts with his family, obviously, and it's a loss for all of us infomercialists, as I choose to think of, at least me. You guys are stuck with me, so you are too.
No, RIP Ron. 86 is that's a good run, man.
It's a good run.
Yeah,
I'd sign up for 86. Yep, I'm in for that.
Yep, going 150%. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
Change the game. put his name on his goddamn apron, sold his shit, brought his family in, invented, pitched, made a lot of money, died at 86.
Oh, yeah.
Hell of a run, Ron. Rest in
Yep.
peace.
Yeah, if you told little Ron in that boarding school that this was going to be the run, he'd be like, that sounds right. Yeah.
Off the bone.
Yeah. Off the bone, baby. Yep. Dave, you said it. Rest in peace, Ron. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. And you should still have fun at your apartments.
Yeah. Always have fun.
Thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, or follow on your preferred podcast medium. And for all things Call Now, visit callnowpodcast.com. And if you want to connect with the boys, you can find them at Call Now Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, or send them an email at callnowpodcast@gmail.com. And if you can't fight the urge to pick up the phone and call now, you can leave them a voice message at 617-356-7439. If you call in the next 30 minutes, you might just be the next star of Call Now. Thanks again for listening. We hope you tune in next time to Call Now.
Thank you for listening. This has been a B+ effort. We'll try harder next time.